Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar called Demystifying Complexity in Your Cloud and Kubernetes Environment. I'm Greg Ziemiecki, and I'll be your guide to the world of observability today. And yeah, as a product manager, I had an opportunity to work with numerous organizations and navigating the challenges of cloud modern architectures where Kubernetes and cloud were a kind of core of it, right? So yeah, let me tell how Sumo in this context can help you out with actually demystifying this complexity. And yeah, basically when it comes to the agenda, we'll start with on a high level with the observability triad. And then we move on to the key observability challenges in the cloud and Kubernetes. We'll talk about the Kubernetes and how distributed tracing helps to, I would say, understand your applications. In general, what are the Sumo capabilities that help troubleshoot and understand your applications stack? Yeah, then we move on to Kubernetes-specific observability topics, and at the end, we'll touch this unified monitoring and heterogeneous environments, meaning like multi-cloud environments. So you can it's like a synonym perhaps of a multi-cloud environment, which is often the case in our organizations. So yeah, observability, right? It goes beyond traditional monitoring, right? So obviously, while monitoring tells you when something is wrong, observability helps you understand why it's wrong. So it's about gaining insights to the internal state of your system, and by examining different outputs, right? And the outputs are like the triad that we'll be talking about in a while, right? So specifically in cloud and in Kubernetes context, there's like a observability takes in new dimensions, right? So first of all, we have like distributed complexity, right? So cloud native applications are often composed of numerous microservices spread across multiple clusters, or even multiple cloud providers, right? So then observability and good tooling should help us to understand how those components interact with each other. Another dimensions, another challenge would be like ephemerality, right? So especially in Kubernetes, right? So it can be also in the case of virtual machines, but especially in Kubernetes, pods can come and go, scaling the system up and down based on demand. And again, observability helps to get the visibility of those short-lived entities, right, and their impact. Yeah, there are multiple abstractions layers. Again, cloud and Kubernetes adds multiple layers of abstraction. There's not only physical server with monolithic applications, but there are multiple abstraction layers we need to understand, and they all have like influence on our application health. Dynamic resource allocations, right? Auto scaling, on-demand resources. So understanding how those resources change, scale, multiply horizontally, vertically, it's also important. There are new concepts like service mesh interactions, right? So as it becomes more common, again, another layer of complexity, right, is added. Yeah, and obviously it's about observability, but again, somehow in the security and compliance topics that also encompasses, continuous monitoring for security threats and some compliance regulations. So that also needs to be there, and implementing observability also sometimes helps to take a look, and sometimes those observability and security domains intersect. And yeah, basically now that we have set the stage, so perhaps deep dive into more detailed components of the observability, right? Basically logs, metrics, and traces, right? So those three elements, let's call it like observability triad. So And obviously we start with logs, and which are, the bit of detailed events that are occurring with your systems, right? So kind of diary of the events. So in Kubernetes, there are multiple in those Kubernetes environments. There are multiple logs generated by multiple sources, and like application logs on a high level from the services, container logs, pod logs, node logs, control plane logs, and obviously kind of cloud infrastructure logs as well. So they're like coming from cloud vendors. So they provide rich information about error, transactions, events, right? And they are very available for debugging, right? They are very also volume and distribution heavy, right? And then we have like metrics. So while log text tells us what has happened, metrics show us how the system is performing, right? So there's numerical measurements. And again, they're coming from cloud infra, cluster, nodes, pods, and application level. So basically the same entities. And yeah, and again, it's challenging is like ensure the consistency in those dynamic environments. And last but not least, traces, which I think are very powerful in terms of understanding the distributed systems. Yeah, because they track the journey of the requests as it traverses across the multiple layers, right, of multiple services. And yeah, this journey is like helps you to like understand the dependencies, the performance bottlenecks, or sometimes debug complex interactions. But I think more logs are more relevant for debugging than tracing, right? But to some extent tracing as well, right? So implementing that tracing can be a bit challenging, especially in the like say polyglot environments, right, where there's like different services, multiple programming languages. So instrumentation is there required across the stack, and yeah, it might be simpler just start with logs because they do not usually require instrumentation. But if you are there, then it basically provides a much more visibility into the performance of the application. Right, and then obviously there are observability challenges. So there are those layers. There are some first what we talk about. There's like different aspects of observability. There is like a data that is triad that we can collect, but again, the observability itself has its challenges. So I'll just like quickly, I won't be going that very perhaps elaborately, but again, I've talked about it already just to some extent, right? So this kind of distributed systems, like lots of dependencies, lots of complexity, inconsistency perhaps, in different environments, like multi-cloud and hybrid environments, right? And so many organizations operate also in multiple cloud environments. That adds again a complexity, right? So we have a tooling to understand that, to be able to understand and unify the data coming from different cloud environments. Again, dynamic resource allocations. We need to prepare for this ephemerality, auto scaling. That again, it imposes on observability tools and another layer of functionalities and to be able to meet customers' use cases. And again, container and pod lifecycle management. So it's not only on this moment, but what has happened before. How many like crash loop backups? What is the state of the pod and stuff like that? And server-to-server communication. Again, this kind of mesh aspects. Latency problems. Yeah, again, that's a challenge in those networks. Yeah, so perhaps we can dive in how Sumo as a platform helps to address those key challenges in Kubernetes and cloud environments to a couple of main areas. So we'll be having like Kubernetes and distributed tracing. We will start with that, although like I said, tracing is very powerful and helps to very well identify the bottlenecks in the application, but everything starts obviously with collection. It's not applicable only to tracing, but how we approach the collection in Sumo is basically in terms of Kubernetes. So we basically have like a unified collection for all the triad, right? So for logs and events and metrics, which is supported by OpenTelemetry, right? So there's complexity in monitoring, but there's also complexity in managing the observability, the collection, right? And here with Kubernetes and our, let's say, open telemetry approach. By the way, there's been already, I think, a brown bag related to that. You can rewatch it again. Miko, I was having a great presentation around that, around unification of the Kubernetes collection and the journey that we went with the Helm chart, right? So again, our answer is like, hey, let's simplify the collection so you have like less maintenance, powered up by open telemetry, by some Wagner agnostic, scalable, future-proof solution, right? So CF supported project, I think, with the largest number of commits. Yeah, so lots of contributions, and yeah, that's like our, I would say, backbone for collection of logs, metrics, and traces. And if we start about tracing, right? So okay, our product supports multiple brings multiple features in terms of helping you to understand the traces, right? So starting from out-of-the-box dashboards containing service maps, which are created automatically, right? So you don't need to be an expert. You have like out-of-the-box provided, hierarchy. It's like you see on the left-hand side, you have like application and you have like services already discovered by Sumo. So you can jump straight directly to the troubleshooting. Yes, on dynamics view, right? So there's like span, traces and spans, and obviously the metadata, which is the traces are arranged with the metadata that helps you correlate correlate the different signals, right? So that's why you can refer from you can refer to those information that you capture from traces to the logs, and in some cases we have like entity model which you can use to traverse across the infrastructure and across Kubernetes, for instance, pods and services, right? So yeah, so we start with tracing that although it requires some instrumentations, it gives a powerful tool, and Sumo supports that as to help to troubleshoot and reduce this complexity and yeah, like I say, enable the observability. If we think about Kubernetes specific observability, because tracing is all about you start with application layer, but very often you can go down to the infrastructure, right? So there might be, it's all about Kubernetes and cloud over here, right? So when you think of troubleshooting, you may start with tracing, but eventually you might need to troubleshoot your infrastructure or your say container orchestration, like a Kubernetes is the king, right? So probably Kubernetes. And then what we have as a Sumo, it's we provide you with like comprehensive Kubernetes monitoring, right? So basically a solution that ends to ends. Again, we start with collection. We support you with like onboarding guides, kind of wizards that helps you to deploy the open telemetry collection using Helm chart, right? So there's like the whole usability and the customer experience to get you onboarded, so that you are equipped with the knowledge on how to integrate, and then we provide this comprehensive Kubernetes monitoring. So starting from auto discovery of running services, right? So auto collector is our distribution allows you to, like, say, to discover the services running on your clusters, right? So if complete telemetry collector is installed, you can automatically discover the services, then you can expand into monitoring, for instance, web servers or databases. And so that's first angle, right? So the other angle would be like, there's not only like a Kubernetes. Kubernetes is not only about getting the logs and metrics from pod, nodes, and containers. There's also like a control plane, right? So there's like an additional layer that you need to have like a data get from. So either you have like Kubernetes control plane, or if you are using managed cloud managed Kubernetes managed service. So there are like multiple control planes that expose data. So everything that is like supported in Sumo. So there are out-of-the-box insight as well when it comes to the control plane for Kubernetes. Again, to reduce this complexity, equip you with the tools without having a need to, look for specific, construct specific queries, but out-of-the-box integrations. Our Kubernetes solution, it's basically you also see it on during the demo, and basically it helps you to it brings the insights when it comes to container and pods, when it comes to like resource utilization, like I say, so CPU, memory, disk, networking stuff, like they're aggregated per cluster on individually per namespace. So there are different ways on how you would like to look at the Kubernetes environment. So either you start with deployment view or service view or cluster view. So depending on what's your preference. So with all of those views, we provide the resource utilization metrics, the lifecycle tracking, right? So how many pods there are over time, how many nodes over time. So are there any failing nodes, or are there kind of crash back of stuff? So like that, like over the time, right? So not only have a snapshot in this right moment, but you have also the whole life cycle of pods to be able to examine how your cluster is doing. And last but not least, and obviously you are able to logs and events, right? You are able to correlate. You have the same on the same dashboard. You have like logs and metrics in one place, so you can immediately correlate them, right? So immediately jump into the specific logs when you see that some metrics is like has like a worrying value. So yeah, that's everything in one place, out of the box, installed using our Helm chart, right? So where basically you set up the collection, but also you're setting up also your out of the box dashboards and the whole solution. For service mesh observability, right? So it's kind of service to service communications is being like more and more popular. So for organizations using that, so we offer specialized, I would say, insights. So Istio integration, we have our native Istio integration, and then again provide some visibility into your service mesh, including traffic flows, policy enforcements, performance analysis. So you can analyze latency, error rates for mesh traffics. Again, looking at keeping your, ensuring this performance of the microservices, right? So yeah, all at once, all at one, installed by one Helm chart. Again, reducing some, maintenance overhead as well. So not only the out of the box insights, but also, we are looking at how to make your life easier in terms of maintainability of the solution. Yeah, and it's not only about the cloud, right? So multi-cloud, again, I also understand that this kind of modern infrastructure is built in multiple environments and multiple cloud providers, right? Not only those three, but we in Sumo we support like a multi-cloud in terms of data ingestion and data visualization. But yeah, speaking of data ingestion first, obviously we do have native integration with Google, with Azure, with AWS. So all the three major cloud providers can be integrated using native, I would say, collection methods. I mean, we are still on the journey in terms of a couple of ones, but yeah, for instance, we have like a native log source for Azure, and there's like a native metrics collection for Azure on the roadmap this or early next year. So yeah, basically we are focused on native extensive integration for multiple cloud environments, and also on the let's say Sumo side, there's like support for multiple visualizations to have them in one place in case you have like a multi-cloud environment, right? And not only, I would say, the variety, which I will talk about on the next slide, but also the flexibility. So obviously we understand you sometimes do not want to, I would say, collect the data from all the data. So there's like a possibility to configure what kind of metrics, what kind of logs you would like to collect from those environments, right? The idea is obviously to unify, to have them in one place, right? Not to go to multiple cloud providers and troubleshoot it like individually, but have the data in one place. And basically, yeah, not only the number of integrations, but only the flexibility of those, like meaning in terms of configurability is there, for instance, just like to select specific namespaces or just like collect data with having specific tagging, right? So there might be also, you might need to collect the data from prod, not from test environment, right? So that's also possible. And if you look at like number of integrations, there are like a really variety. Like I said, it might look complex, but again, it's all about having them in one place, having a unified log metrics and traces capabilities, querying capabilities, visualization capabilities, in order to reduce this, this complexity and have everything in one place. And also, in order for you to understand your dependency between your services, we have like this entity model. So basically, it's all about intelligent data correlation. So we basically are able to learn what kind of entities you have in your environment, right? So basically, instead of like having like a identifier, unique identifier, which doesn't say you much in the log, you have like a hierarchy. For instance, if you look at AWS observability solution, then you have like we display the hierarchy in Sumo, so you can able to traverse and go through it, expand the specific services, go to the level of particular, for instance, EC2s. But at the same time, you use this entity model to jump directly, or let's say, go from one service to another if they're interconnected, right? So obviously, if you can jump from logs, for instance, of specific AWS services, like an EC2, to the metrics of specific load balancer using our entity model. So if they are related, our entity model will know about it, right? And you will be able to jump directly from logs to metrics, for instance, right? From the panel, right? So that's the powerfulness of our entity model. And all happens, right, obviously, in the ecosystem of built-in and customizable dashboards for Kubernetes, for cloud, right, for others. Obviously, there's lots of out-of-the-box content, lots of out-of-the-box integrations, but obviously there's like a customizability of it, right? So if anything helps you to be better, right, if there's like any specific use case you would like to customize, then it's also the way to do it in Sumo. Yeah, and all of that's again powered by alerting, because multiple times we just start from there, right? We just set of alerts. So again, our recently developed functionality, there's also a brown bag around that. You can just like refer to that great presentation and demo about AI-driven alerting. Yeah, so feel free to take a look at that and use this. Say again, you might not need to know at what level you would like to be notified, but again, it's another level of reducing the complexity of your environment. Just like trust us, and we will do it like for you, right? In terms of building the specific alert. Yeah, I don't think we have like any questions at this point of time. So yeah, basically we have a small demo. Basically, it's a generic demonstration of how the troubleshooting workflow, and you'll be able to, let's say, to go through all the aspects of Sumo platform, starting from alert, right? Again, it may be AI-driven alert that comes to your Slack message, and basically it's like it's our very standard use case for that. And you see that alert is okay. You see a spike, and it's triggered by some specific query, a log query, basically those AI-driven alerts have been picking up before they are now equipped. They can be triggered based on logs. And yeah, there are additional contextual information. Again, tracing, right? If you have like instrumented, then tracing allows you to see direct impact, right, on your application. Again, we see a kind of log fluctuations over there, so there might be something happening in our application causing the problem, right? So yeah, so again, we go to the predefined playbook. Again, what you will see is like, again, top down. So over here you are able to build dashboards, including panel, that you have like that traverse through all of the infrastructure, looking like from the business aspects, right? So business KPI through application, from the real user monitoring, Kubernetes infrastructure, and cloud infrastructure, right? So those kind of, high level overview, high level dashboards allow you to look at the, your whole infrastructure. And then you can jump from it. And again, you start from, from tracing, right? So there's like out of the box application from the real user monitoring. You can direct see the impact on the user, on the, performance of the applications. And again, yeah, multiple dashboards prepared for you, again, just like to help you to troubleshoot. Service map that is created automatically based on the data collected by Sumo, right? So yeah, and then again, we see in multiple places that there's like latency spike. And then again, we go to traces to see like the faulty call, I would say. And from that, we'll be able to also to traverse to other, I would say, elements of our infrastructure, right? So I may be spinning this this up a bit, but if you look at that, we see like an increase, I would say, increased response time from the application. Yeah, and again, you see that we helped. Let's say we're layering up different levels. So we have like application, you have container, pod. So you already know with Sumo on which container, on which pod, that particular service which is affected is running, right? So basically, the problematic service, the problematic pod, and the problematic node at the end. But with this, I say, let's say out of the box dashboards, you are able to traverse and debug what is the ultimate reason, right? So that we see like the CPU used versus limit versus request panel, and basically from that we are able to traverse and to go to the exact logs. So you see, we went from tracing via metrics to the exact log that is causing the problems. Yeah. Yeah, what we are doing now is like we are comparing the using our log compare functionality. Is we are looking for any kind of unusual activities and unusual log messages that have appeared in our environment, so that we are able to basically, if there is something new, right, there's like some kind of new log messages, we are able to, let's say, find the assess what we are able to assess the, I would say, whether those are basically Okay, perhaps from the beginning, if we see some kind of unusual activities, basically we'll see an additional new log lines which have not appeared before in our environment. So that might cause and might be a symptom of a problem, right? So overall, the whole demo was about showing you the high level, I would say, Sumo capabilities in terms of layering up and showing you how we can go through multiple layers in Sumo in order to troubleshoot the problem, and starting with tracing with specific application layer problem, up to the infrastructure and underlying Kubernetes infrastructure. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and there are no more questions. I think that's it from my end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. That was amazing. I'll go ahead and stop the recording now.